And welcome back, everyone. Welcome back to the semi-finals of ESL Open Cup Americas number 237. Ooh, it has been quite a ride so far, quite a tournament. Ooh, as it looks like we have a little bit of latency here affecting the players. We're okay on our end, but we'll make sure everything's okay. Looks like there is a bit of latency going on. See, hopefully everything's okay. Yeah, if it is us,
Game resumed.
If it is us, then we will of course leave. But yeah, we're looking good on our end. We're looking good. Ooh, that's a lot of lag. That's yeah, we'll see. It is gonna be ourselves. We have ourselves in here. We have Pig. We have something. But in the top right hand corner, we have ByuN, the Shopify Rebellion. And in the bottom left, we have Trigger for Basilisk. But yeah, okay. It's always that moment whenever there's like a caster lagging in game, and then instantly it's cleared up. Okay, we're good. Shout out to Rocklets. Rocklets is the Brazilian caster, but looks like he was lagging out a little bit there. But whenever there's lag like that in game, it's usually one of the other lobby, someone else in the lobby, and it's like you hold your breath because you hope it's not you. Like I'm checking my ping, and I'm like, I'm fine. I swear I'm fine. And it's like, oh, but things are not looking good. So it's like, is it me? Am I gaslighting myself? Am I the problem? Thankfully, it wasn't. Thankfully. But it is always a tense moment whenever that happens. Shout out to Rockless, so he's a Brazilian caster, and he does cast quite consistently this event, I should say, ESL Americas. So much love to Rockless. Obrigado, papi. Obrigado for all the work that you do. And I'm sure he'll be joining us later on the American server. Sometimes the Korean server can be unstable depending on where you are loading into, but we should be able to settle in. As for now, double gas opener. Double gas here by ByuN going into that factory, and of course, predictions are open. Predictions open in the chat. Place your bets on who you think will claim the series and who will advance on to the grand finals. Who's it going to be? Our Terran or our Protoss? Up to you to decide. Best of luck. Best of luck with those predictions as we're settling into our series. But it's smooth, Pappy. It's smooth. Fun fact, if you remember, last night we were experiencing for ESL Asia, there was like some stuttering going on in game, similar to what we just saw here. It's another caster. That's typically what it is. Smurge, Pappy, smurge. As we are going to be active across the map. ByuN barely does escape with that Reaper. Oh, I say that the Adept was waiting though. Lying in wait for the Reaper. Reaper going to be zoned away. Back at home. Trigger going to be settling into his own Twilight Council opener. Working towards Blink. Meanwhile, ByuN with the double gas going for a delayed CC into a 1-1-1. Okay. This looks like a drop setup here by ByuN. Looks like Cyclone into either a second Cyclone or what do I know? Never mind, going for the earlier Tech Lab. My eyes are on ByuN. This could be for an early tank push if we start tank production. Otherwise, we could go for an add-on swap into Banshees, which has not been uncommon from the side of ByuN. So we'll see what we go for. Do we start the tank or do we go for the swap? It's the swap! Okay, so it's going to be, it looks like Banshee tank, as we have another tech lab on the way on that factory. Starport could be floating over. And yeah, the Banshees are on the way. So this has been very common and very popular amongst the Korean Terran players. Going a tank Banshee like this is going to be quite aggressive here from ByuN. And the way this works is the Banshees, they can harass across the map while you set up for your tank push. And it all comes together in the end. The Banshees, if they survive the aggression, if they survive the dive, they can pivot away, they can rotate around, meet up with the main army, and help support the push. So a very aggressive build here, very committed by ByuN. Trigger, I'm sure, has faced off against this in the past. And we'll see how he responds. We'll see if he's able to get a read on what's going on. So we have our first Banshee moving out. ByuN just looking for any kind of stray unit, trying to gain map control. And Trigger with our Twilight Council opener is working towards 2 gateways in low ground, 1 gateway in the main. It's going to be 3 gate blink from Trigger. With this, has map control, can move out, but unfortunately, because Trigger's moving out, back at home, we're vulnerable. We are vulnerable. Banshee is going into the natural. And probes are going down. Yeah, it takes 2 shots here to bring down a probe. At the same time, Trigger, he's committed. There's no turning back. Not anymore. And do we dive into the natural base? We have a bunker on the way. Marines are amassing as well. It's not going to be easy. We do bait out the tank shots. Yeah, tank shot goes off. We're trading with the Marines, getting on top of the tank. Boys are being pulled. And we get the repair. Yeah, the tank is repaired. Back at home, we do have a warp in. We do deflect that initial Banshee. Banshee is deflected. Trigger reinforcing. He's going for the knife. The misclick. Oh, a bit of a misclick there. The tank will go down, but takes an extra wave, an extra volley. Oof. That means we take extra damage as well. Ay, ay, ay. Yeah, Trigger running out of steam, running out of stalkers. ByuN is building up, and unfortunately, Trigger, he just cannot maintain himself. He has to back off. He's expanding, getting his 3rd base, and we're working on that next step. As we have a Banshee in both the main and the natural. Pulling Trigger apart a little bit. Meanwhile, Trigger's across the map, but he can't really dive into the main. There's a tank there as well. Yeah, ByuN is quite heavily fortified. Trigger will blink in. Gets a Marauder. Oof. Gets a Marauder and has to get the hell out of here. It was okay. We didn't lose the Stalker, thankfully. So, Trigger, it was an efficient trade. It wasn't an efficient trade, but oh, I spoke too soon. 1 Stalker goes down. We have our tanks in position. Trigger has to evacuate us to get the hell out of there. And the Bay on the way for Colossus. We have Charge Lots warping in, or Zealots warping in, soon to be Charge Lots. And here comes the push from ByuN. Here comes that tank push. Trigger will come across the tank though. Very nice catch. Tank goes down. Very nice pick off. Forced to recall. Trigger does make it. Going for a big warp in. ByuN is going to be reinforcing with more tanks. Yeah, the tanks they do on siege. ByuN moves out. And the question becomes, do we warp in across the map with the Prism, or do we warp in back at home? Shield battery still on the way. The army is spotted. Holds move, going for the warp in. Shield battery is denied. Zelda coming from behind. Catch reinforcements, getting on top of the tank. Tank is going to go down. At the same time, a massive warp in into the main base. Trigger collapsing on the Marines. Marines are going down. Say that, but we run out of Zealots, and without a shield battery, without an overcharge, how do we hold on? We have reinforcements. We do hold. We force back the drop. At the same time, across the map, we get 4 SCVs. Not much more than that. 6 worker kills. It's okay. 6 workers in the main. And Trigger does defend back at home. Whew. Very, very tense moment here. I was worried that Trigger would not be able to get away with warping in and with harassing across the map, but he did. Trigger, he defends, he attacks, he takes the 4th. Does take a 4th base. The Banshee does go down. Catching with the chat. Look, another Blink build in TvP. I mean, yeah. I mean, what do you want to see? Feast Colossus for 2 years again? I personally am happy with the end of the reign of Phoenix Colossus. It was dominant for a long time, and we still see it from time to time. We'll still see Phoenix Colossus every now and then, but nowadays it's less popular than it once was. Thankfully. This Trigger is moving out through the center of the map. At the same time, ByuN getting ready with his mine drop, headed towards the natural. Trigger is reinforcing. Hydro coming in. Oh. Catching a worker. Good response so far. Trigger makes his way up the high ground into the third. At the same time, Zealot's trying to make the way into the natural. They are intercepted. No tanks on the high ground. But the Zealots are a bit out of position. We do need that support. Do need the bomber. The Colossus! Almost an overextension there out of Trigger. He has to be very careful with his movements. As we run out of Zealots, we're running out of Stalkers. We're collapsing on top of the Colossus. We pull the boys. And I don't think Trigger has enough. He's going to lose everything. The Colossus, the Prism goes down, and ByuN holds. It does cost him 17 SCVs. A lot of workers went down. But that was a massive loss for Trigger. Unfortunately, it takes far too long here to replace those Colossus. We have to back off. We barely have a standing army. And ByuN has momentum. ByuN has a massive supply lead. And yeah, Trigger was just a little bit too overeager. Was overly aggressive. Going for a Zealot run by, but alas, how can Trigger defend, survive against this push? We have Vikings, we have Marauders. Zealots will distract ByuN, will get some SCV kills, but he doesn't turn back. ByuN does not turn around. He commits, pushing in towards that third. Vikings landing for a moment, realizing we do need them in the sky. But even without the Vikings, we have plenty of Marauders. We can focus on the Colossus. We go for the dive. With the overcharge, though, Trigger, he holds. Impressive. Very impressive defense here. With the help of the overcharge, Trigger, he barely holds on. We survive. And across the map, we did bleed out SCVs. And as a result, that was 39 SCVs going down in total. I mean, Trigger's lost probes of his own, don't get me wrong. But Trigger is holding, and we have a game. We can try to stabilize. I say that, ByuN has no chill. Reinforcing with more Ghosts, more Vikings. Rotating over, getting on top of the fourth base. Trigger does need to rotate over. Does need to respond. Nice EMP on the Zealots. Good kiting. EMP on the Stalkers as well. The Stalkers are so vulnerable. They're so exposed. Second Colossus does arrive, but where's the Gateway Army? We have none. Yeah, and ByuN, he's broken the back here of Trigger. I mean, I say that, another overcharge. Oh my god, we have the overcharge barely ready just in time every single time. Trigger, he defends with one Stalker, one Zealot, and one Colossus. Takes down the full medevac. Oh, takes down the medevac. Trigger, he's barely surviving. But is he really living? That's the question. Trigger is holding on. ByuN at the same time, diving into the third. Threatens the Nexus. Does threaten the base. And ByuN, it looks like he's calming down. He's calming things down. 4 CCs being taken. Now, what is scary here is that ByuN has an economic lead. He's even on bases with the Protoss, which is a terrifying thought here for Trigger. Trigger needs to expand. He needs a 5th desperately, as ByuN is getting his 4th fully saturated. Trigger either needs a 5th base or he needs to pull off some harassment here and get across the map with Zealots, with a warp in, with a run by. But you need something, as Trigger has yet to mine through these mineral patches, so no expansion on the right hand side. Meanwhile, Trigger has yet to confirm the 4th. Might opt to expand here towards the north instead. Disruptors are on the way. So even though Trigger is going to be down in supply, Disruptors have a lot of potential. We can be down 20, 30, 40 army supply, and Trigger can fight back with a good Nova. Good Nova. As ByuN does dive in towards the 4th. Trigger keeps up. We do pop the overcharge. Overcharge is popped. Check. Ray shield my replacement. Yeah, 100%. Like, these fallback points for Trigger have been on point, Pappy. ByuN pulling back. The disruptor count is getting higher. Slowly but surely, we're getting there. ByuN looking for the observer. Bracing more ghosts. More ghosts, more Vikings. 5th CC's on the way for ByuN. Trigger, have we scattered the 4th yet? We have not yet really seen what's going on. And I'm worried, again, ByuN just getting out of hand economically. Does mean that even if ByuN trades a little bit poorly, he can afford these trades. Can replace his army as ByuN is about to max out. Trigger building up the disruptors. How many disruptors do we have? 4. 4 disruptors. 3 Novas going to be available. We do spend the first one. First one is spent. Planetary's up and running. Trigger takes the 5th. The 5th base is late. Meanwhile, ByuN is looking for the expansion. And going for a Doom drop. Oh my god. I was like, do we come back? Do we go in? Yeah, but a massive Doom drop into the main base. Trigger out of position. Oh, never mind. Does recall into the main. The Nova's going to be going off. We connect with the Ghost. Bit of friendly fire, but decent connections nonetheless. And Trigger, he shuts down the main army. Cleans this up. Ooh, does shut down the Ghost. That was a risky maneuver there out of Trigger. He does lose 2 disruptors in the process. But he shuts down the main army. Trigger takes a supply lead. There's a lot of supply going down for ByuN. And Trigger's moving out. Let's move out. Colossus under fire. Ooh, 1 Colossus does fall. That's a lot of Vikings. There's a lot of Vikings here. Nice EMPs. But disruptors, they didn't care about your EMPs. They've been starting back the army. No major connections. Got 5 disruptors. I think there's 1 Nova available currently. 1 Nova. And the rest are resetting. ByuN taking a 5th base of his own. Brought an even base count. Trigger is max as he was able to trade more efficiently. Able to catch out the army earlier. And ByuN is working towards libs. 3-3 on the way. Liberator production has begun. No libs yet. No liberators for the time being. Dark Shrine is done. Blink is on the way for those DTs. And we can get ready for some DT harass. Not a bad Nova. Catching Marauders. 1 disruptor going to be going down. That's big up there for ByuN. Oh, Vikings, they do take down the final Colossus. Not bad. It's going to cost us most of the Vikings, but it was worth it. We do reset the Colossus count. No Skyjust transition yet out of Trigger. He's still sticking with a ground-based army. Despite all these libs. We haven't hit critical mass of Liberators yet, but we're getting there. Meanwhile, another Doom drop is spotted by Trigger. Does he notice? Oh. I don't think he did. Yeah, Doom drop into the main base. The Observer saw this, but Trigger did not. And Trigger pushing into Liberator is not going to work out. Yeah, Trigger, he's caught out of position. Forced to recall. A late recall here out of Trigger. The EMPs are brutal. SimCity working against Trigger as well. Nova's going up. 1 disruptor goes down. Up. Yeah, and we're just pulling Trigger apart left and right. This Doom drop may have just done it. We take down so many disruptors at the same time. ByuN breaks through the front line. Liberation has arrived. And Trigger has been pulled apart. He was keeping up for a long time. I was definitely impressed here with Trigger. Some Novas are connecting. Towards the north. Planetary barely survives. And ByuN is snowballing out of control. We have another scan. Unfortunately, Trigger just unable to keep up with the mass Doom drops. Took him a while to get up to a 5 base economy as well. Trigger trying to catch reinforcements, and he will catch them. But the Liberation, GG gets called, and ByuN takes game number 1. GG. ByuN does eventually pull Trigger apart, but again, Trigger, he was holding his own. He was holding his own for most of that game, just barely. It was impressive to see the back and forth between Trigger and ByuN, but Trigger takes a lead. Sorry, ByuN takes a lead, and Trigger is up against the wall. We have to fight back here and now to force the ace match, and I'm hoping we can get a game 3. I'm hoping we can get it back and forth, but we'll see. The pressure is on Trigger. Pressure is on. So we are embracing that lower semis. Meanwhile, the upper semifinals also underway as well. Dark versus Wayne has begun. So we might just follow this right into the finals. Might just go the distance here. We go. You can hear the beeps. We're loading into game number 2. And either we crown our first finalist, or we have a back and forth ace match. I'm hoping for game 3. We'll see. As game 2 is going to be on site Delta. Also, I'm freezing. It's so cold here, Papi. It's so cold. Spawning in the top left-hand corner of site Delta, we have our South Korean Terran player, the blue Terran representing Shopify Rebellion. It is ByuN. And spawning in the bottom right-hand corner, we have the Canadian Protoss player, the red Protoss representing Basilisk. It is Trigger. Here we go. Here we go. We're going to be settling in. And so far, we're going for our probe scouts. No gateway out on the map. No proxy out on the map either from ByuN. We're not spicing things up too much, thankfully. Meanwhile, hold on. I'm gonna need a moment. I'm freezing back. Okay, I have socks. Okay, we're good. I have socks and they're on. Again, for those that don't know, it's winter here in Australia. It is winter, and it gets quite cold. It gets a little bit colder than I would imagine in European countries or other areas in the world, just because our houses are not insulated necessarily. They're designed to allow heat to disperse and get the hell out, not to retain heat. So because of that, it does mean that our summers are a little bit more bearable, but it does also mean that our winters are very, very cold. Being in a house is like being outside. So I have put on some socks. I've entered sock mode. So hopefully we're a little bit more okay. As for now, we're getting into our tech. It's going to be a Twilight Council opener at a trigger. Twilight Council out of trigger. Meanwhile, ByuN going for a 3cc 3 racks. Let's go. Very greedy build here. This is also quite a trendy build amongst the Koreans over the past couple of months. 3rd CC, very fast, very greedy build here, going into a 2nd and typically a 3rd racks as well. This does mean that ByuN is going to be working towards a sim timing, but it's going to be a much later timing than usual because of how fast the expansion is. And if ByuN gets away with this, if ByuN is not punished, then ByuN will snowball out of control in the mid game. Because the fast 3rd, because the increased SCV production, we just have a massive boost coming into the mid game, and we can overwhelm the Protoss. It's on trigger to try to get a read on what's going on and punish this. Back at home, it's going to be Blink. It's going to be Blink-based opener. We have a gateway in the main. We have a gateway at the natural. 2-gate Blink for now. Standard opener. Trigger is still not fully aware of what's going on. Catches a Marine. Does catch a Marine. Stim is on the way. Catching up. I think Trigger looked deadish before the Liberators came out. Just couldn't match ByuN's Viker. I wouldn't say that. I would say Trigger was behind, as we were stating during the cast. Trigger was behind just because of the economy more than anything. But if Trigger had been able to catch that Doom drop into the main, I think the game would have progressed. The game would have gone on. 100%. Have gone on from there. For now, though, we're going to be settling in. Going for a third base, so Trigger's going for his own third, which means ByuN is getting away with this. He gets away with the more greedier build, gets away with the 3cc. And things are looking that much better here for our Terran player. Stim is on the way, +1, factory into starport, into our 3-base setup. ByuN will soon move out. It's going to be on Trigger to try to keep up here the aggression of ByuN and with the greed as well. As Trigger is establishing his own third. Charge now on the way. Interesting. Working towards charge. We have our Bay as well for Colossus production. Trigger has been teching and has been, again, getting into his own economic opener. It's just that ByuN is keeping up with that economy. We are dipping out. See if we can keep up again with our observer. We actually do miss the CC. Oh, never mind. We do get eyes on it. Trigger now aware of the more greedy build of ByuN, but at this point we can't really punish it. At this point it's too late to try to do anything about this fast third CC. Trigger just has to try to maintain map control and keep up with the movement here of ByuN. Stim is done. We catch the observer. Here comes the drop play. ByuN is going to be pushing. That 3-rack's now coming into play. Double drop towards the north, main army towards the center. Colossus will meet up with the main army, at least initially. Shutting down the Marines. Catching the Marauders. Nice target firing here out of Trigger. But it's not about the main army. It's not about this main engagement. It's about the drop. Double drop here towards that third base. Shield is in position. We do focus on the medivacs. Up! Not able to catch them though. One medevac goes down, but the unload does complete. Overcharge as well. We have only 2 stalkers, and we are racing back home. We catch a Colossus as well. Massive pickup. Colossus goes down. Even if this drop gets cleaned up, even if it goes down, it was worth it. It was worth it here for ByuN as the medevac does escape. Medevac does get away. Meanwhile, third base is getting up and running. You can see there's a lot of pressure on Trigger to try and deny the third, to delay the third base at least. That's why he's being active. That's why he's moving out. That's why Trigger cannot be passive back at home. But we can't break this. We have plenty of Marauders. Vikings have arrived as well. Yeah, ByuN is in position. Nice split there from Trigger. Does avoid the mine shots. We do snipe those Vikings, but we get punished for it. Stalkers are going down, and brutal losses there for Trigger. As he's trying to reinforce, setting up the pylon. Trigger does shave off some Marines, true. Marines are going down. Costs us another Stalker. Not the best trades there for Trigger. Is barely breaking through. More Zealots have arrived just barely in time. We get into the army. The army is a bit overstimmed. The Marines are so low. And here comes the second Colossus. And Trigger, does he have enough? Can he break through? With 2 Colossus, can we break through the third base? We do at least deny mining. That's the least we were hoping for. With deny mining at the third base, we have broken this position. Whew, just barely. And ByuN's contained to 2 bases. Again, this was not designed to kill, this was designed to deny the third. Behind this, we're going to be reinforcing, more zealots on the way, +1 is on the horizon as well. Taking down another Widow Mine. And now, ByuN is stuck on 2 bases, still unable to maintain control of the third base location. More zealots on the way. Trigger reinforcing, Temple Archives working towards Archons, towards Storm. Up. And we do break through the first line of SCVs, but the Marauders are pushing in. Up. They are trying to break through. We're running out of zealots, running out of buffer. Colossus looking exposed. We have to get the hell out of here. And Trigger, he overstays his welcome. Trigger a little bit too greedy as he's going to lose every single unit here. The Zealots, the Stalkers, and the Colossus. We did well denying the third, but we stuck around a little bit too long. We did overstay our welcome, and with that, the entire army crumbles. And Trigger, he just lost everything. Just lost everything out of the map. A little bit too greedy, Papi. ByuN is third base back up and running, getting saturated. We're going to be able to mule it up. Now we are pushing towards the third. Again, I'm really impressed that Trigger was able to break the third base when he did, but we have to take our wins when we can, Papi. And respect the Terran. As ByuN, he breaks out and he's looking to snowball out of control. He still has Vikings left over, Marauders as well. Trigger trying to catch reinforcements, does get a Marine. Yeah, this ByuN is just waiting for reinforcements, waiting for the rest of those Marauders to arrive. I mean, we will be able to shut down these Vikings, but they break down, or they bring down one of the Colossus as well. Barely does survive though. The Colossus, the juggling. We maintain the Colossus, and with the help of it, we're gonna be able to hold on. And Trigger does hold, just barely. It did cost him all the Archons though. That was what, 3 Archons going down. But Trigger does fight back. Nice EMP there from ByuN. Does EMP the Stalkers. Trigger just not backing up. He has no chill. Going for a big counterattack. ByuN, he got a 4 CC. But with a wave of reinforcements with Zealots, we can break this position. Trigger, he's still in this. He's still in this. Diving in the main army. Once again, massive EMPs on the Stalkers. Boys are being pulled. We do quite well against this. SCVs are going down, but we're getting ourselves the Stalkers. We need more Zealots. And they're barely coming in. Once again, the jumping out of Trigger. He saves one Colossus, barely the other as well. For as long as he can. Oh, the Prism does go down, but we shut down the Vikings. The Colossus, they live just barely. 12 HP. The Colossus barely survive. But without the Warp Prism, we can't reinforce. We cannot reinforce on the front lines. Reinforcements are on the way from back at home. Trigger is committed. Even long distance mining. So close to breaking the back of ByuN. One Colossus finally goes down. But we still have one left over. Colossus a little bit preoccupied here. Not the best control of the Trigger. Pulling back though. Gets the SCVs. Does pull back. ByuN though, he has a fourth. He has a fourth base fully operational. And I don't think Trigger knows. If he was aware, we should rotate. At this point, we do need to rotate over. This base is heavily saturated. The Mule Hammer is real. Trigger backing up. I think Trigger did see the 4cc earlier, but again, just unaware what's going on. Because of this, Trigger may think he's further ahead than he is. I'm concerned for Trigger. I'm concerned, Pat. As ByuN is building up. Trigger moving out with his Stalkers. Once again, though, he's checking the third base location. There we go. Zealots towards the fourth. Thankfully, he's checking. And the Zealots can get some damage done. And now we get eyes on the full saturation. Now we realize what's been going on. We get 2 SCVs. Barely 3. No! Oh, as Trigger gets caught out. Stalkers do get picked off. Trigger consolidating his army, bringing everything together. Does bring it all together here. Now rotating towards the fourth base of ByuN. War Prism has arrived. Trigger getting ready for the kill. We do have Ghosts available. EMP is going to be so crucial against those Archons. Trigger pulling back. Vikings have arrived. So far, good control. We pull away those Colossus. Vikings trying to find a way in. They are denied. As Vikings are trying to make a way towards those Colossus. Prism a little bit too far back. We won't be able to juggle the Colossus like we did before. We won't be able to micro. Not yet. Not without that Prism. Zelts towards the fourth. Trigger pulling back. Going for another wave of reinforcements. More Archons on the way. A very tense moment here between our players. Another Colossus! We do overextend. Colossus is going to go down. And Trigger caught a bit out of position there. And he has to back off. Now down to 1 Colossus. Vikings are still in the hunt. And, oh no! Trigger! Calm down! Stellar Runway does come in, but no! Okay, the Colossus will retreat, but the Vikings, they're turning back around! Okay, ByuN doesn't quite get it. But he is pushing. ByuN is close to maxing out. Trigger, no Disruptors. Without Disruptors, we can't really contest against this army. Disruptors are now on the way. We have 1. Just the 1, though. And no shield batteries. No shield battery, no overcharge. Never goes off. Not a bad connection. Graces the army. But we are not ready for this. We pull back to the natural. The base is going to go down. And Trigger was not ready for the counterattack, losing every single worker. 16 probes fall. And we're going for the 5th. We are going for the 5th base. Force cancels. Trigger at the same time going for a counterattack, but we are ready. ByuN is in position. He's ready at the 3rd. The run by does nothing. And Trigger is all in. At this point, he just lost 2 bases. Trigger is committed. Disruptors have arrived. Coming in for a flank. Colossus goes down. The Archons, they do quite a lot of damage. The Archons do well for themselves, but it did cost us the Colossus. And Trigger, he has to keep pushing. Has to keep moving out. Up. And Disruptor going to be going down. Bleeding out a little bit too much. Trigger trying to take another expansion, but at this point it's an uphill battle. I mean, ByuN is fully saturated on 4 bases. Full saturation. Scans confirms that there is no Nexus, or there is one, but it's still on the way. And ByuN, due to a supply leading, just pull Trigger apart. This doesn't have the numbers to work with. Trigger can keep up with the main army, true. Can keep up, but the natural is exposed. The rovers are depowered. We collapse here on the Nexus. ByuN. I mean, it was impressive that Trigger was able to survive for this long. And Trigger, he almost broke ByuN. I mentioned before that a big kind of factor I do think is that Trigger was unaware of the 4th. Was unaware of the 4th base for far too long. Which meant that even though Trigger was denying the 3rd, it didn't even matter. GG gets called, and ByuN will take the series 2-0, advancing on to the grand finals. GG. GG, well played. ByuN will take it. Again, Trigger was hyper aggressive here after he realized how much greed ByuN got away with, and Trigger was almost able to break the third. He did break the third. He did break the third base, but again, Trigger was just unaware of what was going on. He was unaware of when the fourth was taken, so he was unable to punish the fourth, unable to apply any pressure. By the time he did, ByuN had recovered. ByuN had stabilized by the time Trigger had gotten eyes on that fourth CC, and he just wasn't really able to contest against it. And because of that, ByuN was able to sustain himself and keep up and bounce back. GG, well played. So ByuN will take the series, Trigger will bow out. But again, an impressive run here at the Trigger to make it to the finals. And both in Game 1 and Game 2, Trigger had his moments. Definitely, we have seen Trigger defeat ByuN before. Not this time, though. Not this time, not this week. As ByuN will make it to the Grand Finals. And, and we have our finals ready for us because it looks like Dark took down Silky. Dark, he 2-0'd Silky in a ZVZ, and up next we have Dark versus ByuN in a rematch. Oh my. For those that are maybe unaware, Dark and ByuN, I believe they faced off last week, right? Let me just double check. I could be misremembering. Could be misremembering here.